Hey everyone, in the next couple of instructional videos, I'm going to be describing the sport of ringball, specifically how to play the scrimmage style or the pickup style of the game, which varies from the tournament style or league style of play by just a little bit. However, this is going to give you the baseline fundamentals and what you need to start playing. And specifically in this video, I'm going to be talking about the player positions, the player matchups, some of the foul outs, and a little bit more about the game mechanics. All right, so let's talk first about the different types of player positions. In a regular style game, it's going to be a 6-on-6 scenario where you've got two players on defense, two players at the midfield position, and two players on offense. The two players on defense and midfield, which I'm calling blockers and shifters, all carry one stick with them. The shifters and the blockers have different styles of sticks. And on offense, the counters have their hands free. Now, for the different style of player matchups, in the two farthest rings on the field, there are three total. The farthest rings are going to be a 4-on-5 scenario with 4 players on offense and 5 on defense. And in the center goal or the center ring, it's going to be a 5-on-6 scenario with 5 players on offense and 6 on defense. Now, once the players on offense enter into the outer circle here on the field, they may not change once they cross over into that outer circle. Now, on defense, if it's 5 players defending, they can move in and out of the outer circle as much as they want. All right, now let's cover the basic fundamental rule of the sport here. And it's basically how you go from the ground to your hands. In this sport, the only way that you can go from the ground, the ball touches the ground, up to your hands, is by scooping the ball up to yourself. Now, a couple of caveats with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a scoop. You can shovel pass it to another teammate. You can just tap the stick if you want to get fancy with it. If it's just bouncing on the ground, you just have to tap it in order to hold it with your hand. Any other style, like kicking it up to yourself in soccer, just grabbing it off of the ground, anything else, and that's considered a turnover or a foul if you're on defense. An important thing to note here too is that you don't have to do the same thing in reverse. So if you catch the ball in your hand, you can drop it down to the ground, no problem. Or if you want to do a drop shoot, you can do that as well. And lastly here for this section, there is only one hand to foot or foot to hand per player possession. What that means is if I grab the ball and I hold it with my hand, I can go down to the ground and use my feet, but I can't then go from the ground back up to my hand in the same possession. That is also considered a turnover. Now, if the defense tries to swat it away, then obviously it's a new possession and you can do that same sequence all over again. But again, only one hand to foot or foot to hand per player possession is allowed. And I think the only exception to this rule would be if I am on offense and I'm trying to use my foot to kick the ball for a goal attempt, the defense can use any means possible to block the shot. They can use their head, they can use any other part of their body to try and defend it, including using their hands. So they can intercept the ball, they can tip the ball with their hands. That is allowed, but only on a shot and only in that scenario. All right, let's talk about some other types of turnovers here. The first is, if you've ever played basketball before, you know that you have to, if you're grabbing the ball with 2 hands, you can take 2 steps before starting your dribble. Similar here in that if you grab the ball, you hold the ball with 2 hands and you take 2 steps, you then have to transfer it over into 1 hand in order to continue your progression. Same thing when you're stopping as well. If I'm running with the ball and then I go to stop, I can bring the ball in with 2 hands and take 2 steps before taking a shot. However, if I take more than that, then that's considered a turnover. That's considered more of like a traveling that you'd see in basketball. So that would be a turnover. The next turnover, big turnover, is really just how the ball is handled, right? So again, you can grab the ball with 2 hands, you can grab it with 1 hand, but you're gonna then want to try to protect it a little bit more on your drive during that possession. However, what isn't allowed is when you're going to switch over to 1 hand, you're not able to cradle the ball into your elbow pocket. That's mostly seen in football to really protect the ball so that nobody can get to it. This is a non-contact sport, so we have to give the defense a little bit more of a chance here. So cradling it in your elbow pocket is not allowed. However, you can cradle the ball from your hand to your forearm, and that is allowed. And lastly here, I'm going to talk about how the ball is kind of seen or portrayed. So essentially, what you need to know for this section is the ball must stay between your head and your feet at all times. And that basically means you can't run down the field with the ball over your head. You also have to keep the ball in front of you or at the side of you at all times. What that also means is that you can't run down the field with the ball behind your back either. And that's basically to prevent a 7'6" player, I wish I was that tall, from basically just walking down the field like this, so that the 5-foot player is just trying to jump like a bully in school, trying to get his textbook back or whatever. So again, what that means is the ball has to stay between your head or your feet unless you're in the act of shooting or passing. Otherwise, it's considered a turnover. Now, if the ball is on the side of me like this, or if I turn my body like this, the ball is still in front of me, right? So as long as the ball is in front of me each time, then that's not considered a turnover. Or if the ball's on the side of me, right? If I have a pivot foot and I'm moving all the way around to the side, the ball is staying either in front of me or to the side of me. So either holding it like this or running down the field like this is not allowed. All right, so that's going to do it for part 1 of the basics here. Stay tuned for the other videos in this series.